What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an article out there suggesting the latest updates in terms of the Zach LaVine trade situation, and it might not be the news that many Bulls fans want to hear. But with that being said, it's an update, it's important to talk about, and we're going to go through it and try to get, I guess, as much out of this as possible and see what the Bulls will end up doing, and also not to get too emotional about things like this as well, because honestly, things can change in a blink of an eye. But before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and Zach LaVine, and whether or not you believe, I guess, this latest update, and can things change from this situation. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is I believe from Joe Cowley. I hope I said his name correctly, from the Chicago Sun-Times. I think I've heard this name around a while in terms of Bulls updates and stuff of that nature, and he doesn't always have the best reputation. That's from my understanding, at least. I could be wrong, but honestly, whatever rumors you see online, no matter who it's from, even if it's from the most credible people, take it with a pinch of salt, because it's not it's not news, it's not from Woj, it's not from Shams. So honestly, it's up in the air still. But basically, it looks like the Chicago Bulls have kind of, I guess, accepted the fact that there is a potential that Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic will be on the Chicago Bulls next season. That there's very few landing spots for Zach LaVine, and they're basically given up on that situation at this point in time. That's a big statement to make, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, the Bulls kind of have nowhere to go in terms of this Zach LaVine saga, this Zach LaVine trade situation. So it looks like the next best option is to keep him on the Bulls. So there could be a variety of reasons why they keep Zach LaVine on the Bulls. I think the main one would be to hopefully see him upgrade his trade value so we could trade him off before the trade deadline. I think that's obviously the goal for the Bulls. But again, maybe things over time, relationships can be restored. Maybe Zach LaVine is going to be happy to stay in Chicago. Maybe the Bulls are going to be happy to see LaVine stay in Chicago. There's always an opportunity of that happening. But ultimately, I think the goal right now, since it looks like Zach LaVine, at least at this point in time, will be remaining as a Chicago Bull, the best kind of result here is to see Zach LaVine ball out this season and eventually get the trade that he is after. But look, as I mentioned, take it with a pinch of salt, and keep in mind, trades can happen very, very, very quickly. All it takes is one team that is desperate, truly desperate, whether it's now or in the middle of the season, desperate for a change, desperate to compete, desperate to save their season, desperate for anything. Maybe it's even desperate just to switch things up. And that's where Zach LaVine's name can be thrown back into the conversation. But as of now, in the middle of the offseason, Zach LaVine recovering from his injury, he's doing his own thing, he's doing his training, he's getting ready for the season. Ultimately, at this point in time, it looks like the destinations are too few and far between for the Bulls to really pursue a trade for Zach LaVine. And I'm a bit stunned, to an extent, about this situation, assuming it is true, just because I think we can all agree Zach LaVine's a talented player, to say the least, and I think there would have been teams willing to give him a chance, but ultimately, it is the price to pay when you take a risk and you give someone as big of a contract as we have to Zach LaVine. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. When we first re-signed Zach LaVine for the max contract, I was okay with that deal because I didn't want to see a player leave for nothing. I was willing to give him that max contract to see him being kept around for the Chicago Bulls. Now, just because I said that doesn't mean that everybody else said that either. I'm sure you will find many people from the very beginning that didn't like the Zach LaVine contract. That's fine. Ultimately, they ended up being correct. People like myself, a few other people in the comment section that wanted to keep Zach LaVine, at the end of the day, we were proven wrong in that instance. And with that being said, a contract like that, it's not easy to get rid of. And ultimately, teams are not willing to take on contracts like that as well, especially if they're kind of in the already contending type of area. They don't want to go and get another max contract. So you really need to find a team that's willing to take the next step and is willing to believe Zach LaVine can take them there. And so far, there is no team available in that standpoint. So it does suck, and ultimately we took a risk a couple of years ago, and that risk has turned out to be quite a bad one, and a miserable one, in more ways than one. we'll have to wait and see how it goes. I don't really know what else to say about this situation. The best case scenario is Zach LaVine is going to come in hungry. He's going to be very, I guess, compliant. He's not going to be throwing his teammates under the bus, not throwing the coach under the bus. He's just going to come in, do his thing, play his game, and ultimately we'll see where things go. Now, a guy like Zach LaVine, I think the key here is his health, because I think his talent is already there in abundance. I don't think anyone can deny Zach LaVine's a talented player, and I think there are many teams out there that will be willing to take the risk on a healthy Zach LaVine. But that's the key. The last couple of seasons, he's not been that healthy. He recovered from an injury 2 seasons ago. Yes, he played a decent amount of games, but it wasn't at his best. This season, he got injured. So ultimately, he's just not healthy. And that's where I think the problem is for Zach LaVine. Not that he's not talented or that he can't help a team. It's that he's not available enough to help a team. And that's where we need to see a big difference here. So if Zach LaVine can come in, play a big chunk of games, and show his talent from that standpoint, we might be in a good situation where we can let go of Zach LaVine. But even moving on to that standpoint, Nikola Vucevic is another one that this article mentioned. But basically, Nikola Vucevic has no landing spots for him. I find this quite more of a surprise, to be honest, because Vucevic is on a rather okay deal and a rather short-term deal. And with Vucevic, I definitely think he can help certain teams. I really think he's a player that could really fit well out west. So I'm kind of stunned that he is still a Chicago Bull and that there is very few trading spots for him. But maybe this is a situation where the Bulls are trying to overcompensate, trying to get too much in return for a guy like Nikola Vucevic. Because I refuse to believe that there is no team out there that wants Nikola Vucevic. Sure, the Bulls might not want him, but the Bulls are in a different situation here. The Bulls are not in compete now mode. The Bulls are not in the situation where they could keep 32-year-old players on $20 million a season. Maybe we can, maybe we might have to, but it's not an ideal situation for us. But for certain other teams, I think it is an ideal situation, and I think Vucevic can help them out. You just got to stop expecting him to be the first option or a second option on the team. You can't expect him to average 24 points and 10 rebounds like he did with the Magic. If you expect him to produce the same numbers with the Bulls as with other teams, you will get a decent center out of it in return. And I don't think it takes that much to trade for Nikola Vucevic, but that's just me personally. But essentially, the Bulls are giving up in many ways. Trade deadline is still a few months away. The season now, we got to focus on that. But I'm not going to get too emotional on this standpoint. I'm not going to sit here and cry that no team wants Zach LaVine, because ultimately, I still don't believe with Zach LaVine or without Zach LaVine that the Bulls are going to compete. Now, sure, with Zach LaVine, we could finish 10th, for example, and that will not get us, I guess, a good draft pick most likely in the NBA draft, and you definitely want to keep that draft pick in the top 10, and Zach LaVine could definitely hurt that, but again, that's assuming he's going to stay the whole season. Right now, I'm not too emotional about it. I'm in the wait-and-see category. We'll see what happens with Zach LaVine. We'll see what happens with Nikola Vucevic. But with both of them in the team, I still don't think this Bulls team is going to be making the playoffs or making the play-in tournament. I really think that's going to be a stretch. But we'll wait and see. Maybe they can surprise us and, ball out. And this team might be better than what a lot of people have expected. So what do you guys think? It's not the best-case scenario. Don't get me wrong. We could be in worse situations, don't get me wrong, but we're currently in this one, and it's not the worst one to be in. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like and a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.